Good afternoon, members, and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Angus Council's Scrutiny and Audit Committee. I would remind all attendees that this meeting has been recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I have agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. For any members of the public watching, please note that all the public committee reports, including details of specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. Thank you. Mrs Mackenzie, are there any apologies and substitutions, please?
Thank you, Convener. We have apologies from Councillor Martin Shepherd, with Councillor Linda Clark substituting.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 2. Are there any declarations of interest and statements of transparency? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Just a statement of transparency, obviously, as a forfeiture member. With relation to item 5 on the agenda, I've received a copy of the petition, but I don't feel that that's anything else to stop me taking part.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 3 is the minutes of the previous meeting, and it's submitted for approval as correct records the minutes of meetings of this committee of the 27th of August 2024 and the 24th of September 24. Are they agreed as true records? Okay, thank you very much. Members, agenda item number 4 is a request to speak by Mr Ian Nimmo-White. A request to speak has been received from Mr White in relation to the petition received in connection with residents' concerns with the speeding of vehicles at Gowan Bank, Forfar, item 5. Mr White is requesting that the committee considers one or more options to help address the residents' concerns. Do we agree to hear from Mr White? Okay, thank you. And can I remind members at this stage that once Mr White is finished speaking, you can put any relevant question, but do not commit yourself to a view or comment until we come to item 5. Is that agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Mr White, if you just come forward, please, and we'll give you 10 minutes, and I will remind you a minute before the 10 minutes is up. And if you just press the little button on your microphone, take your time. Thank you. What I omitted to say, Mr White, there may be questions from members after you've finished speaking. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are we good to go? I thought I'd make a few pointers because there are one or two things need to be clarified. None the least of these is the newspaper article when this first came to light. Newspapers, as we know, have a tendency to exaggerate things. And that article said that, A, we wanted a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit and that we were making a demand. Well, to the best of my knowledge, nobody, least of all me, has made any demands of anybody. These were requests. I don't know if any of you have read the petition, but these are requests. So that's the first thing I want to say. I thought I'd also mention how the petition came about, because I don't want the members to think that I'm a grumpy latter-day Victor Meldrew. There's a wee bit more to me, hopefully, than that, and I've tried to do this in a fair and objective way. I just happened, having moved into Forfar a number of years ago with my wife, I just happened to start walking the dog down the length of Gowan Bank to the Mussey. You'll know the Mussey quite well, I would think. And then when he was finished running around, walking right back up the road again. and I started doing that 3 times a day. So in a sense, I was able to see firsthand what the problems were. It seemed to me that some drivers were clearly coming past the red flashing light, slow down 30 miles an hour, and completely ignoring it and doing between 40 to 50 through Gowan Bank. Now, you wonder how accurate my estimations are, being an old block, but I think if you've been driving for 60 years, you know the difference between 30 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour, and 50 miles an hour. So I spoke to a number of my fellow Gowan Bankians, usually when they were out in the garden, and I was quite surprised to discover that they also, to a man and woman, were very concerned about the situation. So the next time I saw them, I said, well, would it be worthwhile having a petition? Because 1 or 2 of them had said they'd complained individually without any success. And they were quite keen on that. And that was how the petition came about. Now, you may ask why 51 signatories. I didn't know you had to have at least 50 signatories. It just so happens that I concentrated my effort on the people who stayed on the road, on both sides of the road through Gowan Bank. And I could only have got 56 signatories, even if I'd got them all. There were only 5 who declined. So 51 signatories. And in that petition, we suggested a number of options, only one of which was a reduction to 20 miles an hour. There's also been a response by Roads in the paper, in the Courier, within the last week, and they feel that there is no problem. And they've given certain figures. I'm not going to take issue with that, because I don't know what their methods are. But I can only tell you that myself and the other 51 residents in Gowan Bank, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm getting on a bit these days. I was talking about we can only say that we know what we know. You know, we, on a daily basis, see drivers coming through Gowan Bank at least 40 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour limit. And it doesn't matter whether they're coming through the red light in the Mossy, going out of Forfar, or coming into Forfar from the Montrose side. There's a 30 mile an hour limit there sign. It seems that they're not slowing down. We're not concerned about the kind of driver who comes into a 30 mile an hour limit and is doing 40, and suddenly he realises he's forgotten himself. Or his wife gives him a dig in the ribs and tells him to get down to 30 mile an hour, you know. I'm not talking about that sort of driver. We're talking about drivers who, as far as we can see, have clearly no intention of slowing down when they either come out of Forfar or into Forfar. These are the drivers that caused, if you like, this petition to be put together. I'm going to conclude by saying that there are other villages in the locality, like Lunan Head, which has gone down to 20 miles an hour. Kingsmuir has been 20 miles an hour for some time. Colliston, very interesting road, very straight, and you would think you would get speeding, but you don't get speeding at Colliston. Sometimes it's 30 miles an hour, sometimes it goes down to 20 if the school is going in or out, you know. But the traffic seems to be quite pedestrian there. In conclusion, I would urge the members to take this petition seriously. Speeding kills people. I don't have any doubt in my mind about that, although we've long since got over it. I had a daughter-in-law who was killed by a speeding motorist only 6 weeks after she got married. So, it does kill, but despite that, I have to tell you that I have approached this in a very objective manner and have done, I think, a fair job on behalf of the residents of Gowanbank. And that is me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much, Convener. And I'd just like to thank the gentleman for the excellent presentation there. I just want to ask a question. Heavy goods vehicles. Now, you know, I've travelled the road quite frequently, and there's probably quite a large amount of heavy goods vehicles that do use that road, particularly going into the Laird's Quarry in and out. Is there a sort of feeling that the heavy goods vehicles are some of the people that you described, you know, the ones that are giving their wife getting a dig in the elbow or to slow down? Is there a preponderance of that, we think?
Yes, I don't doubt that, but at the same time, there's also a preponderance of drivers who don't give a damn, and they seem to know exactly what they're doing when they're going through Gowanbank. And I think they're regular drivers, either going to work to Osmontrose or coming into Forfar.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Bell, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nimmelwhite, for your presentation. You've partially answered my question, I think, but it would be helpful to know if there were particular times of the day and night that were really bad, and also are there other kinds of worrying driver behaviour involved in the situation, such as excessive revving of engines or very sudden braking? Thanks.
I don't know about the braking. Could you possibly go over that question again, please?
Yes, certainly. Certainly, yes. I was wondering if there were particular times of the day and night that were worse. Thanks.
Well, I can only speak in a way, although I have to speak for other people as well, but for me personally, as I say, I cover that road 3 times a day. In the morning at rush hour, in the middle of the day after lunch, and then again in the early evening, which is, I suppose, do they use the term rush hour nowadays? And then again, you know, coming back. So these are the times I notice the problem. Heavy vehicles are a particular problem. There seem to be a lot of farm vehicles these days, and they're quite, not only very heavy, they're very close to you when they pass. Is that a fair answer?
Thank you very much. That's fine.
Any other member for questions? Councillor Cowdy, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. I just wondered if, from your personal experience, you would be able to comment on what you think might be the most effective measure if there was just to be, hypothetically, one to be taken. Would it be the speed limit reduction or the speed bumps or what have you?
I don't really have a favourite. I was basically my job, call it a job, my job was, a campaign was to put together everyone's feelings about it. And we came up with 5 or 6 options, I think. No, I don't really have a favour. I do believe that psychologically reducing a built-up area, suburban area, from 30 to 20 works. Some people are a bit cynical about that and say, oh, it won't make any difference, they'll still do 40 or 50. I don't understand people like that. Anybody who's driven for any length of time knows that a 20-mile-an-hour sign definitely slows down a driver.
Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you, Mr Nimmo-White. You can take a seat.
Okay.
Okay, members, we'll go to agenda item number 5, traffic calming Gowan Bank, and it's a report by the Director of Legal Governance and Change, and I'm not sure which officer. Is it Mr Munro? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. This is agenda item number 5, report 300 of 24, and it's available to view at page 11 of the papers. This is a report in relation to a petition received in connection with residents' concerns with speeding vehicles at Gowan Bank in Forfar. The options available to the members are set out at section 3 on page 11 under the heading Recommendations. The petition itself is set out at Appendix 1, which is page 14 of the papers, and consists of 51 valid names. The residents are seeking members to consider a number of traffic calming measures, which are set out at 5.2 of the report, again available to view on page 11 of the papers. The Road Service has provided members with information, which has been set out at paragraph 6, available on page 12 of the papers. Mr Andy Barnes from Roads joins us online and is available to assist members with any questions that they may have in relation to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Munro. Questions from members? Councillor Gregg. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. My question is for Mr Barnes. As was mentioned in the petition there about the 20-mile-an-hour zone as an option, we've currently got those in the centre of Forfar, we've got them at Lunham Bank, we've got them at Kingsmuir. Are there anything that would prevent us from having a 20-mile-an-hour zone going through Gowan Bank, and if so, why? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gregg. Yes, we've got various 20-mile-an-hour speed limits throughout Angus that were introduced mostly on the back of the COVID restrictions, so they were implemented to give pedestrians more space on the roads and slow traffic down, obviously. Scottish Government are currently considering the policy for 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, and until that is finalised, I think it would probably be too early for us to comment on whether or not it would be appropriate to introduce any more as it stands at the moment. Thanks.
Councillor Cowdery, thank you.
Thank you. Can I just investigate that a little bit further? Because that's obviously a decision by Scottish Government which we could also take in this instance. So what would the practical issues be for us to introduce a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cowdery. I think to introduce a limit on its own would not give us the consistency that we're really looking for in terms of dealing with and setting speed limits. It's important that speed limits are consistent so that drivers know what the story is across the board. So if you've got different speed limits on a road with the same character in a different place, then that's not helpful to drivers in terms of road safety.
Thank you. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. I think in terms of consistency, the petitioner did actually mention Kingsmuir and Lunenhead, which are little villages just at the side of Forfar, and this is the same. So I think this does mean that it would look much more consistent to have 20 mile an hour. To be honest, I'm not sure that we should be discussing this at this particular time. It may be that we have to take a decision on the recommendations, but I do feel that that would make it look more consistent.
Councillor Clark, question, thank you.
Yeah, it isn't actually a question, sorry. But just from reading, you know, I'm here instead of Councillor Shepherd, but I'm a ward councillor, and that would make more sense to me, just what Councillor Devine has said. I have to say, so sorry, it's not a question. No, mine wasn't a question.
No, that's okay. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener. Again, I kind of concur with what Councillor Devine said, and I noticed that, you know, on page 12, we're talking about the sort of 34 miles per hour, which is only 1 mile per hour below the requirement of 35 miles per hour for some implementation to be implemented. So maybe could Mr. Barnes maybe, you know, maybe give a wee bit more explanation on that. I mean, 1% or mile per hour, you know, to me, it's not really that much. And, you know, we have it, as we've said, in neighbouring villages, and indeed in my ward in Kirriemuir and the Westmuir, which sees a far lighter volume of traffic than what there is from Gowan Bank going into Forfar. I wonder if Mr. Barnes could maybe just give us a wee bit more information on that.
Thanks, Councillor Proctor. Yes, it's only 1 mile an hour below the criteria, but the criteria is 35 mile an hour, and the criteria is not triggered. So I guess it's for members to determine whether or not they think that 1 mile an hour below the criteria is significant or not. But the fact is, it is below the required criteria. Criteria has to be set at some point. So regardless of where you set that criteria, there's always going to be an occasion where it might just be below. But if it doesn't meet the criteria, it doesn't meet the criteria.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Barney.
Councillor Cowdery, do you want to come back in? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for letting me have a second question. I appreciate what Mr. Barnes is saying, but I feel like in these situations we need to look at the whole picture, and in this case you've got a substantial petition based on the number of people local to that area. So are there many other circumstances in which we've got a very, very fine line, but such a widely signed petition, I guess?
No, we've never had a petition such as this before, to my knowledge.
Councillor Gregg, a second one. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Mr Barnes, you mentioned the criteria, and as Councillor Proctor pointed out, it's only 1 mile an hour difference. And as Councillor Cowdery's pointed out, there was quite a substantial petition calling for change. So even though there's only a 1 mile an hour difference in the criteria, is it not within our power as elected members to decide actually whether we decide to, well, whichever committee this goes to, that they could decide, well, actually, this is the criteria, but because of the petition, because of the feeling of it, we want to have it introduced anyway. Is that not within our power as elected members?
Thanks, Councillor Gregg. Absolutely. It's a simple answer. Absolutely, yes, it is within your power.
Councillor Gavin Nicol, thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Mr Barnes, would it be right to say that if the Scottish Government is looking into this 20 mile an hour speed limit, are we jumping the gun just now? And should we hang off for some decision and see whether they're going to implement 20 mile an hour throughout Scotland? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Nicol. Yes, so the Scottish Government have initiated a consultation on 20 mile per hour speed limits. And another factor is police enforcement. It's very difficult to get Police Scotland enforcement of 20 mile an hour speed limits, particularly until it is decreed nationally that that is the restricted limit on all restricted roads, so to speak.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beattie.
Thanks, Convener. Mr Barnes, on page 12, in paragraph 6.3, it talks about the speed survey that was carried out. Now, we know this is a busy road, but can you tell us how many cars were recorded during that speed survey?
So normally when you do a speed survey, you're looking for at least 100 vehicles to be included in a survey. I don't have the exact figure to hand, but given local knowledge of that road, I would imagine it's far more than 100 or 200 vehicles. It would have been carried out over at least a week, so that would be, you know, several hundred, if not a couple of thousand of vehicles.
Okay, yeah, because that's kind of my point. I mean, we're saying that 85% of those are travelling at 34 miles an hour or less, but that means there's 15% that are travelling much faster, and we don't have an indication of the maximum speed recorded in there either. So there's a whole sort of grey area there with potentially a lot of vehicles travelling very fast along that one.
Yeah, that's fair to say, Councillor Beattie.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. This is really for you. I wonder, we are not a decision-making body here, so I was wondering if we could just go to the recommendations. I would like to recommend that we go for recommendation number 5 and refer this matter to communities because it's a roads issue.
Okay. Do you have a seconder, Councillor Gregg? Okay. Any amendments? Okay, then, is that agreed? This will be referred to communities. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item number 6 is the Angus Health and Social Care Partnership Annual Performance Report, and Mr Cooper joins us online. He's going to present this, I think. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Convener. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Unfortunately, Chief Finance Officer Sandy Berry cannot attend today, so I'm presenting on his behalf, and apologies I can't be there in person today. Today we're presenting the Angus Health and Social Care Partnerships Annual Performance Report for 2023-24. The requirements and terms of publishing this document are set out in the report, and this document was formally put into the public domain in July this year. Much of the content of this report was available for discussion at IGB meeting in June 2024. I'm happy to take comments and questions on Appendix 1, but we just highlight that there are a couple of indicators where the Angus performance is more than 5% below the national average. These have been subject of discussion within IGB already, as described within 5.5 and 5.6 of Sandy's report. And in addition, I would also note that for committee's information for the year 24-25 onwards, the IGB has agreed to restructure its strategic priorities and will now only be working with 3 strategic priorities, with the previous priority 4, which you'll see contained within the report, which was equity of access and public protection, now embedded in the core work of the partnership. Any issues which relate to equalities will continue to be captured within the Equalities Mainstreaming Report, which is presented annually to the IGB. On the final pages of the appendix refer to local performance indicators. These are already structured around the 3 priorities, and it's important to note that we'll continue to develop these locally to reflect our overall strategic commissioning plan. You'll note the recommendation within the report, and I'm happy to take any comments or questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr Cooper. Any questions? Councillor Gall, thank you.
Thank you, Convener. It was on page 58, the emergency admissions per 100,000. I'm just going to ignore the 2021 figure because obviously COVID probably skewed those figures because there's a sharp decline and a sharp increase. But from 1920 to 23-24, across Angus, there's a fairly aggressive increase percentage-wise. Obviously, we know we have serious concerns with GP issues. We had frequent closing and at Bank and Montrose. Is there an issue here where people are either not seeking care that they would have originally when they could easily get an appointment, or they're leaving it too late and they find themselves actually having to be admitted in an emergency because it's been left too long because of GP issues, and or is there another reason why this has increased so aggressively? I wonder if you could, or if you knew.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Gall. And I wouldn't want to give a definitive. I think the areas that you've covered for me would be what I would highlight. I'm happy to take this off table and have discussions, particularly with our Associate Medical Director, to ask for some advice around this. I think we do note that we are seeing an increase in acute needs within a lot of the work in which we do within Angus Health and Social Care Partnership, be that care at home or those indeed admitted to a care home, at levels that, looking back several years ago, we would have seen probably at nursing home levels. And this is a national figure, so we are overall seeing just that increase of acuity across the board. But what I'll do is I'm happy to speak to Dr. Clement and see if I can come back to you with some more concrete evidence for that particular question, if that's okay.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vaughan, question. Thank you. Derek, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Councillor Watt, I'm happy to, if you want to ping me an email to respond, if that's helpful. Okay, thank you.
It's maybe your sound settings, Councillor Vaughan, in the Teams. If you get it going, just come put your hand up again. Councillor Gregg, a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Page 43 of the report and the combined papers, the minor injuries and illness services. I've had a few complaints from residents within Forfar about the White Hills service that's there for the minor injuries. And I'm led to believe that although there is a minor injury service there, it's by appointment only. And when people just turn up, they're turned away and sent to Arbroath, to the infirmary. So is that the case? And if so, why?
Thank you for the question. Again, I think this is something I'd be keen to defer to have a conversation with Dr. Clement around this. I know that the model and approach within MIU is an appointment-based service, and part of that is due to the size of the team, the size of the environment that they're operating within, and they operate on that needs basis. But obviously your point there is the impact on patients and service users who are then obviously directed to another area. So I'm happy again picking that up and I'll have a conversation with Dr. Clement and come back to you with a fuller response.
Thank you very much both. Any further questions? No. Comments? Councillor Bell, thank you.
Thank you, Convener, and I wanted to thank John and the Health and Social Care Partnership team for this report today. I wanted to pick out a little bit the work that's being done around prescribing, not just in Angus but across the whole of Tayside, because there are big issues in terms of our budgets, but also the impact on people's health in relation to polypharmacy, and a lot of acute hospital admissions are related to the combined effects of different medications that people are on. And that's why it's really important that we need to work with our primary care colleagues and our community pharmacy colleagues to carry out pharmacy reviews, particularly for the most vulnerable of our citizens, that will reduce, hopefully, hospital admissions in relation to the reaction of the drugs that people are on. And I also wanted to highlight the work that has been done in Angus on prevention and early intervention, which will also help to reduce the escalation of ill health for many of our citizens. There's a huge range of work going on there. So particularly in relation to Councillor Gall's question, those elements will hopefully give you some comfort that there is a huge amount of focus on these areas of work, not just in Angus but across Tayside and indeed nationally. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. I just wanted to say how pleased I am to see that the COMP case study is showing up that a lot of people are feeling much less isolated than they used to. I was really quite excited when I heard about this originally, which must be 2 or 3 years ago, I think. But I'm happy to know that I was right to be optimistic about it. And I also wanted to say that I'm glad that the ear clinics, there are more ear clinics around now. It wasn't good that people had to travel so far for these services, so to have them much more locally is really valuable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Proctor, comment?
Thank you, Convener. Yes, again, welcome the report. And just want to add that on a veteran's voice, Dr. Scott Jameson for Kirriemuir Health Centre and Health Practice has initiated a system whereby all veterans within the practice are recorded, and we hope that this is going to be replicated certainly throughout Angus and through other places, and I do hope that this will be taken up by other health centres within our community.
Thank you, Councillor Proctor. Anyone else for a comment? No. Well, we have one recommendation, and it is recommended that this committee review and acknowledge the 23-24 Angus IGB's annual performance report. Is that agreed? Thank you very much. Now we'll go to agenda item number 7, which is the Change Programme Update. This is a report 243/24 by our Director of Finance, Mr Lorimer. And I'd also like to just remind members that this report was considered by the Policy and Resources Committee on the 3rd of September 2024. Thank you, Mr Lorimer.
Thank you very much, Convener, and good afternoon to members of the committee. This report provides the first update of the progress of the Council's change programme for financial year 24-25. And as the convener has just mentioned, it's been considered by the Policy and Resources Committee already. While good progress has generally been made, there has also been some adjustment and some slippage, as you'll have picked up from the report, to a small number of the savings, resulting in an updated target position of just under £6 million. That's a decrease of 370,000 compared to the target that was set at budget setting time. That's for 24-25, and there's been a reduction of 30,000 on the position over the 3-year period, which is just under 12.2 million is the is the target. And that's all detailed in paragraphs 5.13 and 5.14 of the report. The value of change programme savings that have been completed so far this year, as is outlined in the report, 3.2 million, 54% of that revised target. That was the position when the report was prepared, but I can advise the committee that a number of other projects have completed since the report was prepared. So the very latest position is 61% complete against the amended target. The target itself, because of decisions that were made at the Policy and Resources Committee, there was one of the proposals around, I think it's 150,000 of a saving for economic development. That was agreed to be withdrawn as a saving proposal at Policy and Resources Committee. That is not reflected in this report, but just to be mindful that change has since been agreed. Appendix 1 gives all the details of the projects in the change programme. And just for clarity in terms of the shading, those that are shaded blue are complete. Those that are shaded amber have some risk attached in terms of delivery. And those that are shaded green are not yet complete but are on track. And that's probably all I wanted to say by way of introduction to the report, Convener, but happy, as always, to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr Lorimer. Okay, we'll go to questions. Any questions? Councillor Devine. Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. Page 67, 520. In this paragraph, there's quite a lot of money being spent on different IT things. I was wondering if you could just give me an idea of this eclipse. I think I have heard about it before, but maybe other people need to know about it as well. It seems to be a social work kind of thing. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, through you, Convener. Thanks, Councillor Devine. Yeah, I think you're referring to the funding around the team leader applications for Eclipse. So Eclipse is an IT system. It is, I think you'd probably call it a client index type system that is used by both Angus Health and Social Care Partnership and our Children, Families and Justice Service. It's used to do a variety of things, but to basically record and track information regarding service users using those services. The system was previously called Care First, and Eclipse is effectively, and you might have heard of Care First. Eclipse is an upgraded version of the Care First system that we've used for many years. That's a big project to move from one IT system to another. And the post that's referred to in this report, there's been a team leader who's been leading the implementation of that project, and that's what the money is being used to deliver. There's a number of aspects to it, not just in terms of operational social work information, but there's also financial functionality to the system, that's the bit that's currently being rolled out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Don't see anyone. Comment? No, as we all know, this has already been at the P&R anyway, so we have got one recommendation, and it's recommended that we, as a committee, scrutinise the progress update in relation to the Council's current change programme 24-25 to 26-27, along with the summary included at Appendix 1. Do we agree with the report? Okay, thank you very much, and thank you again, Mr Lorimer. Okay, members, we'll go to agenda item number 8, which is the Annual Chief Social Work Officer Report 23-24. We've got Mrs Lee joining us here, and we've got Mr Cooper online. And again, this report has been considered previously by the Family, Education and Justice Committee on the 12th of September. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I welcome the opportunity today to bring the Chief Social Work Officer report for 2023-24, my first as Angus Chief Social Work Officer. I'm joined online by my colleague John Cooper, and as the report highlights, I'm pleased to have a specifically appointed lead in Angus Health and Social Care Partnership to support the development and oversight of professional social work practice. Social work and social care have continued to face incredible challenges this year, and these challenges are experienced most profoundly by our workforce and the children, young people, families and vulnerable adults we support. The report provides an overview of social work services, including the incredible range of provision from pre-birth to old age, from community-based to residential care, from support to protection and everything in between. There is much to celebrate in the social work services being delivered, including the rollout of integrated hubs for mental health and substance use, reduced hospital discharge times, excellent performance on community payback orders, the introduction of the Tayside Bairns House and high-quality fostering adoption services, as reported in the adoption fostering inspection outcomes. But the challenges are clear to see throughout this report and affect all of our services. I'll hand over to John.
Thanks, Kirsty. Yeah, in respect of the challenges, the socio-economic climate and the shifting demographic towards an ageing population certainly has a significant impact on levels of need and demand for services, as reported through increased adult protection and also increased care at home needs, which you'll see within the report. Changes in the balance of care and the escalating costs of care, particularly for more complex care for children and adults with severe and enduring mental health and disabilities, which puts pressure on budgets and does make it increasingly difficult to provide care locally. A significant reliance on informal care across a range of situations, including kinship care, caring for a loved one, and also young carers. The carer strategy for Angus is robust and recognises the crucial role that unpaid carers play across the lifespan, as well as the support that they need to be able to care. Challenges in recruitment and retaining both qualified social workers and social care support to meet the range of community needs to support people in their own homes and keep children at home are an ongoing challenge. And current funding models are often insufficient to meet the contemporary costs that we face, particularly in respect of mental health, in respect to the National Care Home contract, and also justice budgets not in line with increased costs. But plans are in place across the partnership and Children, Families and Justice to address these issues. But they are complex, strategic issues that require both national and local responses, with a need for leaders across Children, Families and Justice and the Health and Social Care Partnership to continue to work collaboratively. Back to you, Kirsty.
Thank you. So I can conclude the introduction by stating publicly a sincere thanks to our social workforce in Angus Council and Angus Health and Social Care Partnership. Through uncertainty, through challenges, when times are tough, there's a culture of support and care and firmly of putting the people of Angus first. And as Chief Social Work Officer, I greatly and genuinely appreciate that. I'm grateful for the significant support social work services receive in Angus from our leaders, our elected representatives, our staff, partners and the public, as without them we could not deliver the good outcomes described in this report. I trust you've had the chance to look at the report in some detail, and John and I will be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you both for your very detailed presentations. Any questions on this report? Councillor Gall.
Thanks, Convener. It was just on page 76 about the decrease in the number of local foster placements available. Is the age profile, is it kind of increasing, and is there a lack of effectively younger people coming into that? Because obviously, you know, a home to be a placement for a child is vital. It creates a safe place, and especially when they're in such a vulnerable state. But I do worry when I've read things about the age profile increasing, and many people coming to the end of their career of doing that, retiring, and there's not the same number of people going into that. Is that something that you're seeing here as well?
Thank you for that, for pointing that out. And you're absolutely correct. So the profile of foster carers in Angus and indeed across Scotland is an ageing population. So people who come in to provide foster care often have grown-up families of their own, so they start their fostering career a bit later on. We have carers, there is no age restriction on providing care, but we have carers who fairly recently have left our service well into their 70s, having provided care for hundreds of children in excellent levels of care, and we're extremely grateful for that. I think the number of barriers to people coming forward in communities to provide care for our children. So there's the complexity of care that's required for children. There is the increasing professionalisation of care that's required. We know that things like the national inquiry into abuse in care that's taking place at the moment will shine a light on that and the responsibilities of providing care for children that are not related to you and are not your birth children. So there are a number of things around for people that become difficult. One of the things we are looking at locally and was discussed in our Family Education and Justice Committee is revisiting some of the restrictions that we impose on people who can provide care, and whether we need to be a wee bit more flexible around that, and we'll start a consultation and review process around the criteria to become foster carers. For example, some health restrictions on people coming forward and perhaps needing to revisit some of that. It's no doubt it is a crisis for us, so we have significantly reduced our internal foster care providers. That's a real concern for us. You'll see from the report what that means is that we are increasingly using external agencies to provide foster placements. And whilst the quality of the care that comes from external providers can be excellent and well matched with the needs of the children, they are very unlikely to be local, and therefore we are moving children further and further away. So we're acutely aware of the need to continue our campaign. I'm sure you've seen it. It's pretty visible in Angus around the recruitment of foster carers. We are wide open for ideas and suggestions about how we might grow the pool of carers in Angus, but certainly a concern of ours and right at the forefront of the improvement and developments for our carer support service. So thank you.
Councillor Clark, thank you.
Ms Lee, I've just wanted to ask a wee question on fostering and about the criteria around people's health. And I suppose it's a delicate question, really, but I'll keep within the reins, convener. But I was aware of somebody who came to me and spoke about a BMI for them that didn't seem too bad to me. I'm not an expert, but it really didn't seem that bad. But I appreciate that there's definitely criteria, but that would be one of them, I take it. Yeah, that's fine. You've answered the question.
Yeah, so without going into that detail, that is part of the criteria for very good reasons, because we're looking for stability of care for children, particularly for families where there might be single carers. We need to be really clear about how we achieve the best stability. But I think we do recognise that the criteria for to become a foster carer hasn't been reviewed in some time, and it is absolutely worth us having a look at that with a fresh lens and exploring some of those issues in more detail with our partners. We neither are experts in health and the impact of BMI and other health issues on providing care for children. So we'll absolutely engage our medical advisor in that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, both.
Thank you both. Councillor Proctor, a question. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. Mrs Lee, just again congratulate you on the report, and again I'm beating the veterans drum here, but are your team aware of what's available, to supplement what you do for veterans organisations such as SAFRA, Veterans First Point, Combat Stress, etc.? I mean, are you aware, and do you actually manage to tie into some of these organisations?
Yeah, thank you very much. So, I mean, as with any family that comes forward, social work are not the only service that can meet their needs. Sometimes we're absolutely not the best service to meet their needs. So we are continually looking at what's available in local communities. It's a never-changing picture. So I can't say with absolute certainty that all of our locality teams are completely tied into that. I think it's a really good point. We're certainly well engaged with Forces Children Scotland and some other organisations. What I would draw your attention to is we have just being built in a live way, really, is our website that's just had a soft launch last week. There is a link in the report. And we are building there the range of services that are available for people who come into contact with social work. So me, my family and social work. And we'd hope to host there a live links to services that are very important for families in Angus. So we'll certainly take that on board, Councillor Proctor. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you both. Any other questions? Don't see any in the chamber, nor online. Comments then, please. No comments. Oh, Councillor Devine, thank you.
It's a very brief one, really, because we did discuss this quite fully at Family Education and Justice. Again, you know, we have in front of us a huge plethora of services which are now available to people. And under the circumstances, the financial restraints and all the demands that John was talking about too, I think the service does a fantastic job. So I just want to thank them. And yeah, I think the whole committee would want that to be said to all the services involved.
Yes, I would just echo what Councillor Devine said. I think we'd all agree with Councillor Devine's comments about every service of this council. We're all public servants and here to serve the public, and I think we do it very well. So well done, Kirsty and John and your teams. We have one recommendation then, and it's recommended that this committee scrutinises and makes comment on the contents of the Chief Social Work Officer Annual Report for 23-24 Appendix 1. Is this report agreed? Okay, thank you. Thank you both. Agenda item number 9, members, is the Angus Council Plan Annual Performance Report 23-24. It's report number 27-24 by the Chief Executive. We've all seen this because this report was considered by Angus Council on the 24th September 24. So I think Mr Kirgill will be here just for any further questions. But do you want to make a wee introduction, Gordon? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Afternoon, members. Yeah, there's a bit of deja vu about this one as well. Yeah, so this report presents the annual performance report for 23-24, which again is based on the council plan that we agreed in March 2023, which was obviously not this year but the year before, so we're reporting a year behind. This obviously was considered at Council in September, and really it's important though it comes to this committee just in terms of the committee's remit, in terms of review of performance and effectiveness of the Council services, so that there is that further opportunity to look at the report and just consider it in that context of the committee's remit. The report's an important report for the Council, and it's required as part of our statutory public reporting duties. And it provides a council-wide update covering all directorates during that period. There are obviously a number of other performance reports that come to members during the course of the year, not least Kirsty's who we've just seen. And these complement this, but this gives us an overview of the council-wide. The Appendix 1, which is obviously the main body of the report, provides that progress update across the economy, people, place and efficient and effective council themes that reflect what's in the council plan. And we have put the further detail on the performance indicators, and there's a fair bit of narrative associated with information in these papers that we've put onto the council's website. And that's under the How We Perform section. So you know, the information is there publicly available to look at a bit of detail around the trends and patterns around the data and performance that's collected in relation to these PIs. I just wanted to say that really the performance, we said at Council that it's a mixed performance picture that we're seeing across services. There are a similar number of indicators improving as declining overall, and we'll have some that haven't changed. And just to give the committee a little bit more on that, we do have short-term numbers within Appendix 1, and overall that's over the course of 1 year, so within 23-24, how did things change? We had 30, overall 30 improving, 34 declining, and there was 8 with no change. So you can see over the year it's quite similar numbers, improving and declining overall. And on the long-term numbers, the long-term trends, which is over a longer period, which is 4 years, we'll have 32 improving, 33 declining, and 8 with no change. So again, similar numbers as improving as declining, but with a slightly more declining in both short and long term. So I thought it was important for members to sort of have that awareness of how we're performing overall strategically. Of course, the devil is always in the detail, and that's available in the information that's on the website. That mixed picture were reported to this committee in June with the LGBF Local Government Benchmarking Framework information, which covers all 32 councils across Scotland, and that reflected similarly a mixed picture. And I think the more challenging kind of performance areas that we're identifying there and through our own work is really around, I think it's been touched on already this afternoon, around those children's services, adult social work services. There's some areas of corporate services like sickness absence and such like that there's some performance issues there we need to look at. Economic development is another area, and also, as members will probably be acutely aware, the housing services where we're taking action to address the issues there. So these are the key areas where we have got some challenges. But understanding that performance picture and the related data, which we're using more and more as we look at how we frame up for next year's budget and such like, that information is becoming really important so that we can make informed choices, informed decisions, and target our operations and resources towards the needs, the real needs of our communities. So we're also looking to how we can continue to improve that approach, and we're looking at a strategic needs assessment, which we're in the midst of doing, and also further information to build on our PLED programme, performance-led programme, around a performance management framework, which will add further confidence, I think, in some of the decision-making that we're taking. There's a lot of detail in the report, but also happy to receive members' thoughts on the report in terms of where they feel that we could improve content in the future. So happy to get feedback on things that you'd like to see within future reporting that's maybe not as visible as you'd like. Happy to take that today or by email. Anything you want to feed in on, that would be gratefully received. And finally, also happy to take any questions if there are any specific questions to address from the report. And again, possibly would require to defer to colleagues on service area specific questions. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you very much, Mr Gill. Questions? Councillor Bell, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Gordon, for the report. I know I've seen it before, but I have been thinking about it in the interim. It's not keeping me awake at night, but I'm thinking about it. And your narrative really highlights, just the enormous amount of work that we do as a local authority and the impact that has on services. And it's a presentational question that you've asked for that. I'm not sure that some of the report really gives us enough credit where we are delivering. So, for example, those boxes that say ongoing but aren't filled with any sort of percentage, when there's clearly delivery going on and things are progressing. And I just wondered if there was another way of representing that visually that makes it look like a reflection of what is being done on the ground, really. It looks a bit empty.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Councillor Bell. That's it now. Yeah, happy to take that bit of feedback, and I think that was actually mentioned also at the council meeting. So yeah, I mean, we can look at a lot of these ones that we do have as noted as ongoing. Maybe we could chunk down or put in phases and such like, and give a percentage around completion about the phase that's currently in progress. So we could take a look at that for next year and build that in. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Comments? Councillor Devine, thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking at page 108 under performance overview, and it's about the fact that the positive destinations for 16 to 19-year-olds is kind of flatlined. But since Council, I was at an employability event in Montrose in the middle of last month, and I met 2 new members of staff working for developing the young workforce. And from that conversation, I'm very hopeful that our young people are going to get the support, encouragement to really think about their future pathways and to take action to make it happen. I was just very impressed by the two people that I spoke to, and I think that is going to be really valuable to our young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? No, don't see any. Okay, we have one recommendation, and it is recommended that this committee reviews and scrutinise the 23-24 Angus Council Plan Annual Performance Report. Is this agreed? Thank you very much. Members, agenda item number 10 is the National Fraud Initiative Update, and it's a report by the Service Leader Internal Audit. Good afternoon, Mrs Wiley.
Good afternoon, Convener. Thank you. This report is looking at the National Fraud Initiative, which, as you know, is run every 2 years, and it's an initiative that uses computer data matching to benchmark and to detect potential fraud. And we're looking back at the Audit Scotland report, which is summarising the work that was undertaken for 22-23, and also looking forward to the planning for the next exercise, which is just getting underway just now. The Audit Scotland report is looking at areas from 22-23 covering payroll, creditor payments, council tax reduction, housing benefit, pensions, housing tenancy and waiting lists, blue badges and adult concessionary bus travel. The Audit Scotland report has some recommendations in it for preparing for moving forward, and there are also some checklists that we need to use when we're preparing. The recommendations are noted at paragraph 5.2 within the report, and you'll see from that that Angus Council has already undertaken action to take forward those recommendations. And the appendix also shows that the checklist is being adhered to and that we don't have any additional recommendations and actions that need to be taken in the preparation for the new exercise that's just underway. In section 6, you'll see a table. It's on page 164. There's a table which shows the national and the Angus figures against each of the areas that have been looked at, and it's showing you an estimation of the costs and savings that have been made in these areas. In total, nationally, there's a figure of 21.5 million, and for Angus, there's a figure of 0.221 million. But I think it's important to note that that includes 0.181 million, which is a notional figure for a loss of parking and congestion charges for blue badges that should have been cancelled. And in fact, if you look at the lines for council tax and creditors, between the two of them, there were 6 items that were identified as being errors, totaling just under £38,000, and there's action being taken at the moment to recover that money. In terms of moving forward for next year, we've uploaded some of the data, and we're expecting to have some of the matches ready with us to start checking in December this year. I do have Ewan Ritchie on the call here who will be able to answer any questions that you have about any detail regarding the NFI exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs Wiley. Any questions? You actually answered mine, Mrs Wiley. Mine was about how you reached the figure of the blue badges, but you answered that in your presentation. Thank you. Councillor Bell, thank you.
It's about the blue badges as well, actually. I know how difficult it is to get a replacement blue badge if you lose one, having had to do that for a relative. And I just wondered to what extent, as people don't know what to do with the blue badge once someone has died, that there is perhaps a process, and could that maybe be added on to the, or if it's not already, the list of things that are automatically cancelled when you do the one-stop death registration? That, I'm sorry, I don't know the correct terminology, but I know how helpful that is. That you know, is there a blue badge being used, and could that automatically be cancelled? Thanks.
I know that thank you for the question. I know that the Tell Us Once process, that's the name that's used when you're reporting registering a death. And my understanding is that does refer to blue badges as well. It does give you the option of having a blue badge cancelled by that means. It occurs to me that we could perhaps look at that to see if that's if the effectiveness of that is coming through in the report, because we do tend to cancel a lot of blue badges. And I imagine a lot of persons registering death would seek to use the Tell Us One system. So that's definitely something I can look at.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No comments? No comments either. Okay, we have 4 recommendations. Consider, note and note. Do we agree this report? Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr Ritchie and Mrs Wiley, for your presentations. The final item is agenda item number 11, and it's the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Scotland Act, or to use the short term, the RIPSA report. And it's a quarterly report by the Director of Legal Governance and Change, and Mr Munro is going to speak to this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. Please to advise, this is the last report of the day. This is report 304 of 24, available to view at page 173 of the papers. This is a report to advise members of the use of surveillance powers by the Council in terms of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Scotland Act 2000, or RIPSA. This is a quarterly report and covers a period between August and October, and members are asked to note that there were 2 authorisations granted during that period. The background set out at section 4, and I trust members have a chance to read that. I don't intend to rehearse that any further. Happy to assist members with any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr Munro. Any questions? No. Comments? No comments. Well, we have 1 recommendation. Is this report agreed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all, both here in the chamber, officers and elected members, and for elected members and officers online, for your attendance today and for your contribution. And have a nice rest of your afternoon. And we've got 1 meeting before Christmas time. Thank you.
John, can we stop the live stream?